All right, and now let's get reaction to the president's comments and the controversy surrounding the prisoner swap for Bowe Bergdahl from Jennifer Palmieri, White House Communications Director. Jen, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Happy to be with you, Kristen.
Jen, as you heard earlier today, President Obama said he makes absolutely no apologies. But as you know, there is still a lot of bipartisan frustration on Capitol Hill. There was a briefing last night. All 100 senators were briefed. They were shown a proof of life video of Bowe Bergdahl. That was part of the argument that his health was in fact deteriorating, but they weren't all convinced. This is what Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Saxby Chambliss had to say on Morning Joe. I'm going to get your reaction on the other side. Take a listen.
There's no indication that there were any health issues with Sergeant Bergdahl. I can say that very matter-of-factly. He was probably coerced into mumbling the words that he mumbled. He didn't look good, but
no,
that's not enough to tell me that he's in imminent health danger from a health standpoint.
So, Jen, a lot of senators just not convinced. Was it a mistake not to give them a few days heads up about this transaction?
Well, I guess first I would say that the president and the National Security Council here rely on the advice of the president's military advisors on this kind of action. And, General Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has spoken very clearly about this. And he said that we saw this as the last best chance to get Sergeant Bergdahl home. And, in terms of Congress, we're trying to balance the desire and need to protect this mission, to keep it safe and secure, with informing our partners in Congress of actions that we are taking. But the truth is that the possibility of this type of swap has been discussed with Congress going back a few years, from 2011. It was also
Jen, but they say they haven't been briefed in a long time.
As our Deputy National Security Advisor, Tony Blinken, briefed the Congress last night, this possibility was discussed again with some of the committees in Congress in January and February of this year, when we saw the proof of life video that the senators were shown last night. When that came to light, it was brought up again with some of the committees in Congress to let them know that development had happened, and to be aware that this possibility was still on the table. So, we have the president, I think, spoke very forcefully and clearly about this today. We have a sacred obligation to protect our soldiers, to bring them home. We saw this as the last best chance to do that with Sergeant Bergdahl, and that is the obligation that we have. The military said it was our last best chance, and we took it, and the president doesn't make any apologies for it.
Jen, as you know, the administration's handling of this has been criticized. I want to read you something that's in the Wall Street Journal today. This is from the editorial board, which says, quote, "We think Sergeant Bergdahl deserves the benefit of the doubt until the facts are all known, but our guess is that Ms. Rice oversold him as a hero," of course on the Sunday shows this past weekend, "because the White House was hoping to turn the swap into a big foreign policy victory. Thus, Mr. Obama hosted the sergeant's parents in the Rose Garden on Saturday in front of the TV cameras, while Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel took a victory lap in Afghanistan, and Ms. Rice called it a great day for America." Do you regret at all, Jen, selling this as a foreign policy victory when there are still a lot of unanswered questions about Bowe Bergdahl?
We did not sell it as a foreign policy victory. The President of the United States spoke to the American people to explain to them that the action that he had taken on behalf of Sergeant Bergdahl. The truth is that anyone who has the courage to put on the American uniform, who has the love of country enough to put themselves in battle, deserves to be. We don't ask any questions. That we bring you back. It doesn't matter, as Admiral Kirby said the other day, it doesn't matter if you were pushed, fell, or jumped off a ship. The ship's going to turn around and it's going to come back and get you. We knew that this was going to be a controversial decision. That was why we wanted the president to speak to it. We knew that Congress, based on our past conversations with them, there were going to be people in Congress who were probably going to have concerns about it. We knew that there were people, there was information in the public domain, some people who had been critical of Sergeant Sergeant Bergdahl, critical, we think, unfairly, and because we don't know exactly what happened. So we knew it was going to be controversial, and that is why you want the President of the United States to speak to the American people and explain to them exactly why he took this action. So it is not something that we expected to be a good news story. It was something that the President, as Commander-in-Chief, was obliged to do, and he explained to the American people why he took those actions.
Jen, let's talk about those 5 released detainees. You have assurances from Qatar that they will protect the U.S.'s national security interest for the next year. Of course, they will stay in Qatar. They won't be allowed to leave. But what happens after that year, Jen? Can you assure the American people that these 5 detainees aren't going to come back and attack the U.S. or its interests? Because it didn't seem as though President Obama was able to do that when he was asked a similar question a few days ago.
The president spoke to this in Warsaw the other day, and as he said there, and as I think the Secretary of Defense also discussed today, that, as you said, they are being monitored in Qatar for this current year. If at the end of that year they leave the United States, the president noted this, we have a mechanism to continue to monitor them. If they return to Afghanistan, combat operations end there at the end of this year.
What are the mechanisms to monitor them, Jen?
Kristen, let me finish. Okay, well. We have tools that are available to us to monitor them. We have tools that are available to us to take action against them should they pose some kind of threat to our defenses. That's what the president said the other day. There's some matters that you can't that you can't get into details on, but suffice to say that we have the ability to monitor them, and if there's a problem, the president said that we would take action against them. But I think it's also important to note this war is winding down, and the combat mission ends at the end of this year. This is not a situation where American troops are going to be facing any Afghanis, including the Taliban, on a battlefield next year.
All right, and quickly, Jen, we are running out of time, but I want to ask you about this broader question about Guantanamo Bay. Senator Lindsey Graham has said he's going to move to impeach President Obama should he try to free any more prisoners from Guantanamo Bay without alerting Congress. Your reaction to that, and is that the ultimate goal here, to unilaterally try to close Gitmo?
It's the administration's long-held policy that we should close Gitmo. There is there is a legislation and a law that permits you to do that, and we are following the letter of that law, and that is what we did, including within this particular circumstance. So we'll continue to pursue the closing of Guantanamo. We will do it lawfully and legally, and it's a priority to do so.
So, and your reaction to the fact that you have Lindsey Graham threatening to impeach the president if he continues to act unilaterally?
I'm not going to react to Senator Graham's comments, except to say that this president will continue to, as he always does, act legally and with the good judgment of what's in the best interest of the United States security.
All right. Jen Palmieri, Director for Communications for the White House, really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thanks, Kristen.
And for more on this, I'm joined now by Congressman Peter King of New York, a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Congressman King, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen.
Let me just get your reaction right off the bat to what you heard from Jen Palmieri about the closing of Gitmo. It seems as though this is something that the administration is going to continue to pursue.
It's obvious the president wants to shut down Gitmo. If he wants to do that, I mean, I'm opposed to that, but if he wants to do it, he has to comply with the law. And he shouldn't be doing it by the back door. He shouldn't be using a prisoner exchange as a way to close down Gitmo. And I just say, from listening to the president and listening to Jennifer Palmieri, they're really amazingly tone deaf. There's real arrogance there. I mean, for the president to say he's not going to apologize and not to acknowledge the legitimate questions that are being raised here, and if they don't see the symbolism of having the parents of Bergdahl in the White House in the Rose Garden for really a ceremonial type event, when you think of the soldiers over there who have been killed and their mothers and fathers certainly were not welcome to the White House that way. And as we know, there's reports that a number of soldiers soldiers were killed attempting to rescue Bergdahl after he walked away from the base, whether he deserted or abandoned it or whatever. The fact is, if the president were going to do this, and I disagree with what he did, it should have been done in a very low-key, matter-of-fact way, not with a ceremony at the White House, and not having the father speaking in Pashto, and especially they had to be aware of the tweets he'd been making to pro-Taliban type groups.
Congressman King, let me pick up on that point, because the president would argue this is an American soldier. He was serving in this war. Yes, there are questions about his service. That's being investigated. The DOD currently investigating those 6 deaths of the other soldiers. But nonetheless, he's still an American, and the president makes the point that we do not leave an American soldier on the battlefield. He reiterated that today in his comments when he said he makes no apology. Is there not some validity to that point?
There would be validity, and it's a balance that has to be struck here. Number one, there's still no reason why he had to bring the parents to the White House. Again, when you think of the mothers and fathers who could not have their son return home, perhaps because they were killed attempting to rescue Sergeant Bergdahl. As far as bringing back every soldier, yes, I do agree with that principle. But again, you have to weigh the price here, and considering all the questions about Sergeant Bergdahl, I thought it was wrong to be returning 5 terrorists under these conditions at this time. And the fact that the president, you know, what makes you more suspicious of the whole thing is the fact that they've told so many different stories. You have Susan Rice saying he performed as a hero. You just heard Jennifer Palmieri saying that they didn't have time to notify Congress. Okay, you know, 30 days is one thing. Let's just say they made 2 days or 3 days or 5 days. And for them to say that they've been in contact with the members of Congress, Mike Rogers is the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, which I'm on. Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, is the chair of the Intelligence Committee in the Senate. Both of them say they were never told anything, and they are the ones, certainly nothing in the last several years, and they are the ones who are supposed to have been notified.
Congressman King,
yeah.
let me pick up on that very point, because as you know, senators were briefed last night. They were shown a proof of life video, which showed Bowe Bergdahl having trouble speaking. Some senators who came out of that meeting said they were convinced that his health was really deteriorating. His life was in jeopardy. I know that you haven't seen the video, but based on what you know about the video, does that not change your opinion about this at all? That the White House just didn't have time. Their goal here was to save this person's life.
Well, they certainly had time to make a phone call to Mike Rogers and Dianne Feinstein. I mean, that they clearly could have done, and to the Speaker of the House and majority and minority leaders, that could have been done. That would have taken 5 or 10 minutes. And also, as far as the video, you know, you also heard Saxby Chambliss say he looked as if he may have been drugged. The video we saw yesterday from the Taliban, where he was coming out of the Jeep and onto the helicopter, he didn't look there as he was about to die. And so, to me, when you have 2 different type videos, to me, it could well have been that the first one he was induced. But even if that was the White House's belief, there's no reason why they shouldn't have told, again, the top people in the Congress. Now, I don't believe, I'm one of those conservatives who does not believe that the president, as commander-in-chief, has to notify Congress. But I'm saying as a practical matter and as a matter of collegiality and as a matter of honesty, the president certainly should have done it. He should have contacted them. It's almost now as if they're trying to cover something. And that's why there's this whole cloud over it. And also with the 5 terrorists.
Congressman King, we're running out of time. We have 5 seconds just very quickly. The White House is accusing some of your colleagues of trying to swift vote Bowe Bergdahl. Some Republicans who, prior to his release, were urging the White House to make a deal. Are the Republicans trying to swift vote Bowe Bergdahl?
No. To compare what was apparently done to John Kerry or allegedly done to John Kerry to this, every allegation that's being made by these troops are the people who are in the field with him. They are the ones we should listen to. These are men who served with him, who felt betrayed by him. No one has a better knowledge than they would have.
All right, Congressman Peter King, really appreciate your time.
Kristen, thank you.